What's up, everybody? It's Carpo. Sunday, February 23rd, 2014. And a few different covered subjects I'd like to cover today, but, generally I'm talking in circles. But, that's what keeps me going. Thinking about why we do the things we do. Because the more I learn about why humans are the way they are, the easier it makes it for me to live in this world. And that's just my personal take on it. But I'm going to try not to ramble too much here, but there's a few different things that I wanted to cover. First off, I wanted to say that, there are a lot of ignorant people in the world. And I am no exception in my own way. And this is why it's really easy for us to point fingers at one another and say this person's this, that person's that, but the reality is that we are all ignorant in some way, shape, or form. Wow. I'll take that as a sign. Wait, that was a sign. I'm just going to leave that in. Thinking. The idea of philosophy is for one to better themselves and better their surroundings, to better their environment, to better their lives, to better their and more fulfill and rich experience that they can have in life. Okay. Now, kind of like that poem I wrote the other day, I shared. It was about philosophy, art, and music, and how bad art and music are just ignored, but bad philosophies can ruin entire cultures. And this is nothing new, but it's still a really interesting thing to consider that people are the way they are because of the way that we fool ourselves into thinking that what we believe is true and that what everybody else believes is just not quite there. And, if 99% of the world leaned towards one particular agreement, like there's one subject that a majority of people agreed on, then the person may be more prone to lean and say, well, maybe I'm not seeing things right, but there are still people, individuals out there who are the only ones who believe something is true, and they still believe that it's true. For example, some of the, stranger conspiracies I've heard online, where maybe a small group of few thousand people believe something and they assume that the whole rest of the world is ignorant and that they're the only ones that are privy to this information. Perhaps sometimes this is true. But more often than not, if it's a deeply researched subject, then, you can look at the majority rule and say, okay, well, people use their common sense and figure these things out. Sometimes that's not the case, though. Sometimes the majority of people just choose to ignore something because it makes it easier than looking into it. But I find it interesting how people have these patterns and paths and little cycles within their lives that where they get really into something. Now, I've seen this in myself. I've had people tell me in the past that I'm OCD. I think to a degree, I have a certain amount of OCD within me. But I don't believe that that's an actual diagnosis. I think OCD is just a part of our psyche that some people have a little bit different of an experience with. Personally, I get really into something, and that's what I'm into for a while. I can look back at my videos and see the things that I was into at particular times. And the reason why I try really hard not to say, this is true, or this is true, or this is what I believe. And I do try really hard not to do that. I may talk about things that I don't believe are true based on the information I have that they're not true, but I really don't have a whole lot of proof to prove anything that I believe is true. In the sense of, let's say, the torus, the aura, energy fields, human body. Even some of the experiments that have been done on the torus or the heartbeat has its own magnetic field. Even some of the Russian tests that have been done to prove that that's true, it's scientifically shown, but I'm still at the mercy of the science. Just like we're all at the mercy of what we learn in the news, and no matter how much more aware a person may think that they are, they're still accessing the same information as the next guy. It's just how they interpret it. And I found that quite often people will just kind of they'll relay information, you know, they'll just keep recycling information over and over that they've heard to the next person without any real source for that information. But when it comes down to living and life, all of that's pretty irrelevant. I mean, we dwell on the stupidest little things, you know. We're always worried about, you know, the little angles to life, because the big angles are so hard to handle. Because ultimately, it seems like I see a lot of society casting their doubts, their fears, and their hatred outwards into the world rather than bringing it back inside to the individual, which is what you have to do. And I gotta turn this shit down. It's driving me nuts. So, like, as a society as a whole, what am I getting at, I guess, here? I see I'm rambling. I wanted to say that I find myself in these certain modes of thinking, and then this is why I know that next week I'll be thinking differently. Now, I don't know if this is just the way I am, because I know some folks are very content to think the same way their entire lives. But every time I'm opened to new evidence, new information, I have to change my way of thinking a little bit. This leads me to really see in other people how the same behaviors that I have within myself. And what I wanted to give an example here is that, have you ever, every one of us has probably had a friend that gets really into something and then they want you to get into it too. Let's say, for example, my brother got into golf a couple of years ago. He just wanted me to play golf with him. I'm not into golf. Then he got into frisbee golf. Now he's just dying to play frisbee golf with me. He's not into golf anymore. I know that this is a behavior of my brother because when we were kids, he was always like this. When he was into the Grateful Dead, that was the only band that was good. Every other band was just not worth his time. And when he got into Fish, it was the same way, you know. But when he was into heavy metal, it was the same way. I mean, he has a very strong compulsion towards what he's into. A lot of people may see that as a weakness. In this society, when people are OCD about things, people think it's like a weakness. It's not at all. Because for those of us who have it, it's a strength as long as you learn how to attach yourself to that strength instead of seeing it as a weakness. So when you're obsessive about something, learn everything you can about it, you know, be into it. But anyway, when I see my brother, when he would do those things, I would see how when he's really into something, he wants somebody else to be into it. I see this all around me all the time. I find myself, when I'm really interested in, say if I was interested in numerology for a while, you know, I'd want to share that with people I meet. I'd want to talk about it with people. And although the people that I talk to may have had an experience where they're educated and were interested in that subject, they're no longer interested in it. You see what I mean? I'll give you a good example. It would be aliens and UFOs. Sometimes we'll get into a conversation about, you know, the mystical things in life, and somebody will bring up UFOs and aliens, and I get off the subject because I'm not interested in it. To the outside, that may seem like I'm not, like I don't believe in UFOs, or like that they're not interesting to me. But the reality is, it's the only reason that I'm not interested in talking about it is because there's way too much speculation, and I don't know which reports are true, which reports are false. I don't know if they're extraterrestrial, interdimensional, but I do believe that there are superior intelligences visiting our planet or visiting our dimension. I just don't understand how it works. So for me to put out a whole bunch of energy and time trying to research something that there's no way that I can learn, that's one of those things I have to live through. Everyone else has to live vicariously through others or else experience it themselves. So until I experience it myself, I have really not that much interest in it. Which I have seen some strange things. I'm not saying I haven't. I just mean the only real evidence. I mean, I can't sit here and listen to people who are telling me the Pleiadians are, you know, coming and this and that, and these planets harbor these aliens, and this is the way the universe was created, and there's this galactic federation. I don't know any of that, nor can I dispute nor prove it, so there's no point in wasting my time on it. So, when I go through a phase, I try to make sure it's a phase of something that I can actually learn from and that I can convey to others. But just, we all go through a time where we're into something other people aren't into. So don't think that just because another person's not interested in the same subject as you, that they're not aware of that subject. I've had too many people tell me, oh, you need to do research on this and this. It's like, I have. I'm just not interested in it anymore because I've done all the research I can do. And then it becomes less interesting. You see, when you first get into something, it's always really interesting. And you just want to share all the information you have with everybody. And then after a while, you lose interest. And I do. You know, I can only stick with one thing so long. And if it doesn't really move me, then I'm off to the next thing. And I can't explain or express to you people the experiences and feelings I have in life. I can't express to you the connection I feel with the world around me. You know, all I can do is talk about it. And you're going to interpret my words the way that you want to interpret them. And that's totally your choice. And I'm misunderstood a lot by a lot of people. And that's what I expect, because I think I misunderstand others just as often, if not more often. And I'm trying really hard to understand each personality and what makes people tick, because I think that it helps us to be better people. So maybe I'm talking up my ass. I don't care. I'm me, and I'm here with me. I'm the only me, and you're the only you. And let's work together. Let's work together.